Bitcoin inflows are starting to make a scene, and we're seeing some action in the market. We'll break it down for you guys today. You don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. I do want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Tangem. This is a place where you can start your self-custody journey. And if you guys have never done self-custody, this is one of the wallets out there that I would recommend because it's super easy to use, very secure. All you have to do is visit tangem.com. You can get your wallet in and active very quickly. Actually, all you have to do is hit that Get Tangem button right there. It's going to get you into the 3-card set, and it will give you a backup. Very easy to use. Got a great app. Also, you guys will love it. There's a lot of tokens in there that you guys can also swap. So it's a super amazing product. Check it out down below. Use our code. It does help us. All right, let's get into a couple of topics today. I do want to talk about this right here. And of course, everybody's kind of looking at the current situation right here on where the markets are. Stocks are barely holding a daily gain after we saw one green daily yesterday. Oil prices crashing. Demand is disappearing. I don't know about that yet, and I think we may see some reverse on that. Bond prices rising, yes, entering a recession. I think that's going to continue on our track right now, mainly because of what we're going to see in terms of labor and what that looks like from a jobs market outlook over the next 3 to 4 months. Gold prices rising, like there's more volatility possibly coming, and that may be true with both the S&P and also even with risk assets. Mortgage demand, 30-year low. This is a concern right now because this is one of the cornerstones of most of the economy here in the United States. And of course, crypto is nearing what would be considered a bear market like risk appetite. So, and I don't know, are you guys considering this as a risk off scenario right now as we start to edge into it? Or is this one of those markets where you feel like this is the typical cycle of what we've seen before in crypto? Other things that are hitting the market, I want to get into core CPI because this is one that I think is important. Forecast for August CPI report showing inflation easing further. We'll show you the Trueflation here in a second, but let me zoom in on this for you guys. Overall, right now, economists are anticipating the CPI inflation rose 0.2 in August. That would be in line with the 0.2 increase in July. And would bring the annual inflation rate down to around 2.6 from 2.9. So, I mean, this is the exact thing that Powell has been talking about, which is getting inflation moving into that 2% number. Whether he achieves it at some point down the road, whether it's in Q1, 2, or 3 of next year, I think his mission going forward is clear. And that, of course, is going to be get rates back in order so we don't harm the economy. The Fed's pretty content with this. These types of benign readings right now give them the green light to cut rates and focus their attention on the labor market, which I think is the real concern right now in terms of labor market. And this is the one that I've been the most concerned. I've been very vocal about it over the last year, is that labor, when you look at the major contributing markets out there, and there's really only 2 sectors that contribute to jobs more than anything in the U.S., and that's going to be medical and also the restaurant industry or the hospitality industry. And both of those are starting to see signs of weakening. So that is a concern. Trueflation right now, we have pressured pretty hard if you consider that just back in September, we were over 3%. Just back in September, over 3%. And this is interesting. In less than a year, we've been able to move basically the needle down to where we're essentially cutting it almost in half in a period of 12 months. So that's a pretty significant move. Now, granted, there hasn't been a ton of rate cuts in that, but I think it's the higher for longer situation that has kind of pushed the market into a really tough spot. Other things that people are looking at right now, Bitwise CEO or CIO predicts a significant crypto rally as the macro uncertainty fades in Q4. The only thing that is really at risk right now are jobs and the global macro from a scenario that is playing out mostly around potential wars. The situation in the EU is loosening up some, and also we're seeing a little bit of that also in Asia. So that may be true. Matt Hogan, of course, heads this up, saying that his base case for a significant crypto rally after current macro uncertainty begins to dissipate in October and November is what he's looking for. He suspects that we'll see a market struggle to find its footing until we have greater clarity over the leadership and policy. And of course, that's boiling down to the presidential campaign that is currently in play. And there's a lot of that that is moving. And there's a couple of points that I want to get to right here in terms of the inflow for Bitcoin, because many people have kind of been looking at this 50K number as being that magical number for the ETFs. And if you look at this right now, it had 8 days of straight net outflows. This was the longest streak since the net outflows that we had seen in 8-month history. It ended yesterday with 52 million in net in. And this, of course, this is also the 10 US-based spot Bitcoin ETFs overall. So if you look at that, that's essentially what they're talking about, is this section right here back in August and end of August, early September, where these net inflows or net outflows were pretty significant versus what we're seeing now, which is the first return to net inflows. Look at this. And if you really look at this on a grander scale, really the only other time that we've seen that kind of net outflow was back in the grayscale day. So a big one. Well, guess what? Tonight is the debate, and everybody's going to be looking at this because I think it will set in stone the position of the Harris campaign and their current position maybe on crypto. Most likely there will be no mention of it, but the idea is that it will give us crypto voters an understanding of how we need to be voting, what side you're on. But the point is, if you're a single issue voter, you're looking for a candidacy that can really start to support that, from a long-term standpoint. Things also that are happening right now, if you just look at the Polymarket rating right now on the election forecast, Trump has taken a commanding lead over Harris, which is interesting because just a short 2 weeks ago, this was almost a neck and neck race. And there is a significant difference between what's happening, and Trump continues to gain popularity here within the Polymarket betting pool. So you look at Polymarket, the other thing that has happened is right there, that little bit of a jump right there. Remember, we saw the election move right here. And right here, we're starting to see another move, which is happening during the sports season, which of course the NFL football season has launched. So we're probably seeing a lot more activity, and most likely we'll see a lot more, especially as we see regulation starting to ease. So that's a big one. Are you ready to bet on U.S. elections? Judge's ruling opens the door, and this is something we reported on earlier this week, but get ready for legalized betting as soon as next week. This is a federal judge on Friday last week cleared the way for Americans to place bets on the outcome of congressional elections. And this is all lined up to Polymarket and Kalshi. These are the ones that have pretty much lined up for what the potential is overall. I've got a clip on this that I want to play that kind of gives you an insight to where this is going, but also what to look for. Take a look. So interesting point that he's making, because he hit on a couple things there. And one, of course, is that depending on where you land, that the betting markets could be much more indicative of what the voting population is. And I think that is very clear where crypto voters stand. And that is simple. Make regulation or get regulation into play, stop pushing companies offshore, and get the United States back in the game, because that's the biggest challenge that we're dealing with right now. So during the debate tonight, this of course is on Polymarket, of what would Kamala say at the debate. Right now, abortion seems to be the number one. Then you get into his convictions, liar, Project 2025, border 5. I mean, you got to see, these are kind of silly, but some of these, but everybody's betting on something. Democracy, 82%. Look at crypto right there, Bitcoin, only 12%, but I'm surprised that it's actually that high. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. Do you guys think that at the debate tonight we will get any mention of crypto whatsoever? Let me know. Hit the debate, or hit the debate. Hit the comments down below. Let me know. A couple other things to kind of take a look at is, and that is, I think, the more core architecture of what's happening in innovation right now in the United States. And is how companies are selecting where to plant their flag. Now, granted, Polymarket, a New York-based company, but operating their organization outside the US. And I think there's many companies that have started to do that. The question is if we don't see a regulatory framework come into play that is pro-crypto, pro-blockchain, pro-innovation, we could start to see even those HQs start to move and even take more jobs out of the US, which is really kind of what it boils down to. Other things that I think people have to consider here is, when you look at just in general, the offshoring of innovation, and you look at some of the countries that have had the problems of offshoring innovation, some of those have been countries like Venezuela, China, even Russia to a certain extent, where countries will not move into those zones and will only look for free markets. And what we're finding is that we're starting to see these free markets develop in areas that we have not anticipated before. You look at what's happening in Argentina, you look at what's happening in Dubai, also within Hong Kong to a certain extent, but definitely Asia and Singapore starting to show some pretty big signs of grabbing a lot of this innovation. Other things to be on the lookout for of why, and that is that the SEC's crypto industry fines and penalties now have surpassed 7.4 billion. That's after the Terraform fine. So I want you to think about this for a second. This is just one fine that has accelerated up to 7.4 billion. Imagine if they get going here on more regulatory by enforcement. But this year is the largest on record due to the 4.4 fine levied against Terraform. So basically over half of that since the 2013 number came off of just one win. So imagine if we start to see a lot of these more decisive wins going against some of these companies. Overall increase in fine amounts indicates strategic shift toward fewer and higher impact cases. That I think will continue. The evolution emphasizes the need for crypto firms to prioritize regulatory compliance as the financial risks, of course, associated with the violations have escalated. Meaning that you're going to have a lot of these companies that just now will not risk it. They're going to move their operations outside the US. It just cannot be. It was different when they were going after maybe smaller organizations. Now they realize where the money is. So that is kind of the clarity that the SEC and other organizations have kind of put themselves into. I want to jump to a clip because this clip will give you some insights as to what matters most in the markets right now. Is it the performance of what's going to happen in the presidential debate tonight? Or is it the continued pressure to remove the CPI from the economy? In other words, let's get the economy healthy, or is it more in tune with who's going to drive the economy from an administration standpoint? Take a look at this clip.
I think it's the debate we're definitely waiting for, but it's a good point that we won't necessarily know the impact immediately. We obviously, unless there's a complete, clear victory like there was in the Trump-Biden debate, but I think without some kind of surprise or some shocking disappointment from one of the candidates, it might take a little bit of time to process. But it is absolutely the debate that is the focus this week. And it's very interesting, given that most of the last few years, CPI has been such an important print, and it shows how we have fully made the transition to jobs again being the focus rather than inflation. That was the case for most of the last 20, 30 years until the last few years. And again, now we care about jobs over inflation, and particularly because we've got through the COVID period of where we're getting really volatile inflation prints. And therefore, we know there's going to be less of a surprise either way in inflation. If it beats it or misses, it'll be only by a minor amount more in the rounding.
So a couple of things that he's saying there is, what matters most. I'm in agreement with that statement, is that I think the debate, even though I do think it may not necessarily give us the clarity, I think this is just going to kick the ball down the highway a little bit here in terms of what a crypto position is. But it may give us some slivers of insights. Now, I'm not saying that if you're a crypto voter, is this going to change your mind tonight? Or are you going to continue to say, no, I'm going to vote for Trump because he's pro-crypto, and the Harris campaign is yet to really give a policy outline for it? Or is there a chance for that to occur? So this is going to be an interesting time this evening. So it's kind of interesting that crypto has become such an issue for the very first time. This is a survey right here. 73%, let me zoom in on that. 73% of crypto owners in the US plan to look at a candidate's crypto agenda. So you think about this, guys. Right around 90 million either have access or own crypto right now in the US. A little over 35 million are crypto active and are talking about their political position. And if 73% of those 35 million are more worried about the candidate's crypto agenda, this will have a massive effect. I mean, that would be a landslide for potentially Trump, unless, of course, and this is what a lot of people are looking at, does Harris come in with a Hail Mary on crypto and blockchain innovation at the end to try to win voters? And how would you guys do it? I mean, how would you play this in terms of winning your vote? Another 37% of respondents indicated that the presidential candidate's position on crypto would have a significant impact on their vote, but the big one is some impact. I think this one is the one to watch very closely. So this, I think, will be an election. You know, there's been elections in the past where social media kind of decided them. I think it is going to finally going to be what's happening in the crypto space is going to decide the next president of the United States. Other things, of course, that are happening out there, and the reason it needs to be decided on is because of this right here. Soneium has partnered with Sony Bank to launch a yen-linked stablecoin. What this simply is, it's just a big headline, but the point is that Sony has, and we did a whole video on this, go back and look for our Soneium video, I think it was last week. This is the acceleration of what Sony is doing to develop a blockchain on Ethereum to really start to create innovation there, including innovating almost like an incubator of new companies and all that. This is the problem that we have, is potentially losing something that would be equivalent to a Silicon Valley out of the United States and losing it to markets like Asia, the EU, the Middle East. All of those markets are vying for what could be one of the biggest areas of growth in the next 20 to 30 years. Could mark a major turning point for Japan's financial sector, particularly as it concerns the country's ongoing Web3 efforts. And this is a thing that I think a lot of people, especially in the US, do not understand yet. Much like they did not understand the era of the internet when it first truly hit the market and retail, most people didn't know what it was. Most people didn't care. But look at it now. And that, I think, is where we're dealing with Web3 and, of course, the future of blockchain. So they all know this. They're not going to miss it again. That's for sure. A lot of these countries missed it the last time. It's ironic to me that the United States is even at risk of missing this. That's the ironic part about this. If you guys are not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in right now. It's a great place to get additional content. We do our market update video that I do put out to our Diamond Circle members. It's not available here on YouTube, so make sure and just join. Hit that link down below. And of course, follow me on X at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.